All right, hi everybody. This is going to be Chapter 5's Excel chapter practice. So in this chapter, if you go through the first several steps, you're going to learn some more about various formulas and functions. Equals max is the first one that you'll see. You'll have access to the quick analysis tool. So whenever you highlight a bunch of cells at one time, you can hover over the bottom right corner of that, and you'll see a little pop-up tool that's going to show, and you can get a various number of very simple formulas will pop up for you to access. Here's some examples of those: sum, count, average. The chapter goes over how to figure out a percentage, what the proper formula for that is. Editing a formula after it already exists. There's another section on setting up absolute references. Using the F4 key is what it says here. I want to make a point on that, on the F4 key. If you are using a laptop or a Macintosh computer, on the very bottom of your keyboard, the bottom row, there's going to be a button that says FN. That stands for function. And it transforms the top row of your keyboards into the function keys. So on older keyboards, when this textbook was written, it was just F1, F2, all the way through F12. But what laptops will do, and what some keyboards will do if you have a specialty keyboard, and what Macintosh computers do, is that those F keys default to a purpose that might be something like turning the brightness up and down on your screen, or turning the volume up and down your screen. And by holding that FN button, that function button down, it'll turn it into a standard F key. So if F4 by itself isn't working for you, hold the function button, the FN button down, and then press F4 to lock in those absolute references. So again, that's in the first section of the Excel challenge, the more on formulas and functions section. But what we're going to do is the chapter practice. The chapter practice does go over all of the tools leading up to that. So it is important when you're doing these that you go through the other 3 to 4 steps on your own. I think the conditional formatting and the logical lookup functions are especially important this week compared to previous weeks, going through all of those. The if function in this second section is going to be utilized in your actual homework. If this is true, display this thing. If this is not true, this is a false statement, then display something else, that kind of work. So going through the steps on that is going to be highly encouraged. Conditional formatting will make it so that if certain numbers present themselves, they'll display in a certain color, or you can put a graph of some kind, like data bars, built into it. So that's what's shown in the conditional formatting section. And then you can customize exactly what's shown. It doesn't have to just be red font. It can be red with italics and a yellow background or something, whatever you want to do. You have a lot of different options. But again, we're going to go over the practice itself. So I'm going to bounce back and forth from the textbook to the Excel file once again. And we're going to start with this one. So first thing it says to do is open the file and then rename it as a PR3 Reading. So I'm going to skip that part and I'm not going to resave the file name. But then we're going to insert 2 new rows at the top of the worksheet. So let me pull this worksheet up. Here we have it. This is the file that you have. We want to insert 2 new rows. What I can do is I can left click on the row to make sure that I've got it highlighted, right click on the row and hit insert. And to insert an actual new row, I don't want to click on the cell where A1 was. I want to actually click on the number 1 in gray on the very left side of my screen here. So that's where I'm inserting the new row, is on the 1 here off to the side. So right click, insert. I've done that twice. So I've inserted 2 new rows. All right, let's jump back to the textbook. Enter the following text. So in cell A2, I want the word category. In B2, I want item. C2, I want January. And all the way down in O2, I want yearly total. And it tells us we need to adjust the column to fit this text. So let's try to remember that. Category, item, January. So A2, Category, make this a little bigger first. There we go. All right, a little bit bigger there. Category, oops, I had caps lock on accident. Category and item January yearly total. All the way down to O2 yearly total. And did it, yeah, so we got to adjust the column width. If I double click on the line to the left or the right of the letter of the column, it will actually auto adjust it for me as long as it's on one row only. So I can double click that and it'll go exactly to the width it needs to make sure it displays on any computer monitor. Yeah, I could drag it a little bit here, but it's possible depending on the resolution, your monitor might not quite fit. So I double click it to make sure it fits. All right, so we've got category, item, January, and yearly total. All right, using the text in cell C2, okay, which was January, we're going to autofill to fill in the months February through December in D2 through N2. All right. So I should be able to just double click on this bottom right cell and have it autocorrect all the way over. Sometimes that wants to go to the wants to go down instead of to the right. So to make sure it goes to the right, I'm going to drag it to the right. So I'm clicking on that little square. You can see the crosshairs shift from white to black to show that I've grabbed it. I'm going to drag this all the way over until I get to N2. And then you can see the word December highlighted there, let go, and it'll autofill those. And again, we've got September hidden here. So anytime we have text, we want to make sure that the text is visible. I'm going to highlight all those cells and double click them. And now all of them are visible. Bold and center align all of the headings in row 2. All right. So row 2, I'm going to highlight all of these. I can click bold, or I can hit Control B or Command B if I'm on a Mac. So B, and then just to make sure that they are still visible, I'm going to double click again, because sometimes when you make something bold, it starts to not fit. So everything should fit now. And it all is displaying on our screen a little bit better too. Reading family budget in A1, merge and center A1 all the way to O1 and make it 22-point bold. All right, so Reading family budget. Highlight all the cells to O1. I'm going to click merge cell and center, and I'm going to make it bold, and I'm going to make it number 22. Fortunately, it did resize it, or sometimes you'll have to adjust the row height when you do that, depending on if you have an older version of Excel. Next, we need to complete the monthly values for some of the income and expense items. In rows for income 1, 2, mortgage, rent, all the way to this, copy the values for January to the cells for February through December. All right, 1 second here. So those cells were income 1, income 2, mortgage, rent, homeowners, rent insurance, car insurance, car payments, gym fees and memberships. And we want to drag those all the way to, oh, looks like I can't select several. Okay, so what we're going to drag just these 2 at a time all the way to December. Not visible, so we're going to readjust those. We got mortgage, rent, homeowners insurance. I thought I could drag multiple rows, but they need to be connected apparently. What else? We got car insurance, car payments. Gym fees, memberships. All right. So we got all of those now. The next step, it says use the totals tab to sum, to add the sum to column O. It says delete the formulas from 07, 17. So use the totals tab in the quick analysis tool to add the sum to column O. All right. So we are going to go to this tab right here. We're going to drag it all the way down to the end, and we can see the quick analysis tool pops up. We want to wrong button. All right, my quick analysis tool is not popping up. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use an auto sum instead. I'm going to hold Alt and press equals and then press enter. So click that there. And I'm going to drag it all the way down to the bottom of column O here. And let's go back to resume here. Use the totals tab. All right. We have summed column O, delete the formulas from 07, 017, 2432, and 38. So there's going to be a lot more things that are going to be inserted here. It looks like these two, I'm wondering if those will end up being there. Let's see, 38. Oh, we didn't, we did 39 instead. 38. All right, so it looks like we're going to be adding some more stuff in the next steps. Oh yeah, there it is right there. Mac users should use the AutoSum tool instead. However, for some reason it was not working on my my version of Excel there. So and then it says to bold those cells as well. Sure, we could do that. I'm just going to highlight this whole column and then make them bold. All right, in C6 through N6, use the sum function to calculate the total income for each month. C6 through N6. So C6 through N6 is going to be here through here. What I can do is I can do a auto sum, alt equals, and then I can double click, or I can click and drag that down. We'll end up adding other income here, I'm sure. Similar to step 6, use the sum function to do the total house expenses, daily living expenses, total transportation expenses, and so on. So in this cell right here, we're going to do the exact same thing. Drag it down to here. Daily living expenses, alt equals. Oops, need to adjust that one because of the gap. So it tried to find all of it, but I'm going to drag this up to here to make sure that it gets that as well. That gap right here threw it off, so it only went to here and then stopped. Transportation and entertainment as well. Same thing happened here because of that gap. Entertainment and total personal expenses. Okay. Yeah, this one's going to be totally wrong because they're currently blank. Go back up to the very first one, make sure we didn't miss anything here. That's right. That's right. Okay. All right. We are on step 8 of like almost 30. We got 23 steps. All right. Trucking right along. Use the sum function to calculate the yearly total personal expense in cell O45. O45. Don't know why we didn't we delete that. Didn't have us delete that a little while ago. Yeah, I'm just gonna drag that down again. Format the numerical data in row 3 as currency. So row 3, we want this as currency, no decimal places, and with a top border. All the other format, all the total rows as currency with decimal places in the top border. All right. So all the data in row 3, we want it to be currency. We're going to press the decrease decimal. We want a top border. So that's right here under borders. And then all of the totals, we want a top border with all of these to display as currency as well. Let's see here. Oh, looks like I get that wrong. Okay. Let me reread that. Row 3 is currency. All the rows, all the totals rows is currency. Rows is currency. Rows 6, 16. Okay, all the totals. Interesting. So not this row. No. This row, but not necessarily this one right here. Well, we'll just keep it. All the totals. So rows 6, 16, 23, 31. 37, 45. All of those is currency. They got the decimal places, put a top border on. Okay. And we need to add top border back in on here, apparently. All right. Apply the comma format with no decimal places in all the other rows. All right. Every other row we want commas, no decimal places. Would have been easier to do all of them. Just highlight the entire sheet. Okay. I want to add comma style with no decimal places. A47, type total expenses. A47. C47, we want to put a formula that adds together all the expense category totals for January. Copy that same formula to all the way down. Okay, so C47, we want the sum of all of the totals. So what I can do is I can type equals sum, open my parentheses, and I'm going to go to all the totals, and I'm going to hold the control button because I'm going to select multiple things at once. So I'm going to hold control and click here. I'm letting go of control for a second because if I hold control while I scroll down, it's just going to make my screen smaller. All right, before I click the next total, I'm going to hold control again. Daily total living expenses, hold control again. Release control so I can scroll again. Click here, and click here. We should have 6, 16, 23, 31, 37, 45. And then all the way down to December. Actually, all the way down to everything. All right. And probably makes sense to make that bold. I'm not sure it says that. Let's see. A49, we want at A49 net income. In 49, we want to enter a formula that calculates the difference between total income and total expenses. So here's the total expense. Here's our total income. Oh, wait. Expense category totals. Oh, I messed that up. Okay. We do not want row 6. Row 6 is our income. Right? We just want the expenses. So it should just be C16, 23, 31, 37, 45. And then I'm going to copy that down to the end. There we go. Now we want to calculate the difference between our total income minus total expenses. Well, running a deficit, it seems. All right, we came out ahead at the end, but had some rough months there. Feel that. All right, so next we've got in C49, all right. Format the data in rows 47 and 49 as currency, no decimal places, bold the end ones. All right, looks like they're already formatted that way because of the totals being copied. So that works out. We have to do, just to go back to where we're at, we're on select C49 to N49. And we want to do the conditional formatting. So I'm not going to use a quick analysis tool. I'm going to go to conditional formatting tab. And we want negative values to have a red data bar, positive values to have a blue data bar. So I'm going to select all of these cells, all the control, select all of these cells. And I'm going to go to the conditional formatting button. I'm going to go to data bars. And let's pick this very first one, blue data bar. We'll do a blue bar for anything positive and it defaults to red for negative, so that works. Further blue it is, the more income or what have you. All right. In B50, we're going to ask the question, new home? Okay. B50, we're going to say, new home, question mark. And then in C50, we want an if statement. And if C49 is less than or equal to 0, we're going to write no. And if the amount is greater than 0, we want the word maybe. So here's how an if statement works. Equals if this is less than or equal to 0. So whatever the test is, you write it out, comma, if that is true, if that is less than or equal to 0, what do we want it to say? If it's words and not a formula, we put them in quotation marks. So we're going to write no, comma. Now, what if this is false? So if it's false, that it's less than or equal to 0, then it must be greater than 0. That's the opposite of that being true. This is greater than 0. As the false statement, we want that to say, maybe. Let's see. All right. And then I hit enter a little too fast, but you hit enter and then it's saying no, which we wanted it to. And if we copy that down all the way to in, we've got some no's and maybes. Check to see if your if statement is working correctly in row 50. If the cells say no when it's red and maybe when it's blue, it's working correctly. So red, blue, looks like it's working. Always good to test your if statement. Make sure it's working before you write a new one. All right. After that, review the worksheet, make any changes we need, rename the sheet to say budget. Okay, so this sheet, I'm going to double click it and write budget. Change the color of the sheet tab. So I'm just going to right click it, I'm gonna go tab color, and it says to make it green. So now we have a green tab color. Check the spelling of all the worksheets, make changes, save it, and then submit it if we were submitting it. All right. Well, that wasn't as long as I thought it was going to be. That worked out pretty well. I'm going to scroll out so you can see what the completed budget might look like. Should look pretty much like this. There's some other things we could do. For example, we don't know, did we ever buy any clothing? Doesn't look like it. Childcare, pets, books and supplies a couple times a year. All these other miscellaneous expenses aren't in there. So there's a lot of stuff missing from this, but that's as far as they got on this worksheet. But what's great about as it's working is that if you do have gas, you can plug in the amount. So if you spend $50 this month, it's going to auto update the entire sheet, because everything is a formula where it's a reference to another cell. And that's why we make these things, to make sure that they are reusable. We could use the same exact sheet for next year, just delete all the figures out, but all the formulas would remain. So there you go. If you have any questions as you're working on your actual assignment, as always, let me know, and we'll see you in the next video.